Something has shifted deep inside you during these first 10 days of June. You might not have the exact words to describe it, but there's a feeling that the weight you've been carrying for months, maybe even years, has simply lost its power to hold you. I came here to confirm to you that the invisible test you faced, the one nobody around you noticed, the one you fought to carry in silence, has finally come to an end. You passed. The exam that demanded so much of your resilience and your ability to keep believing when everything around you seemed to contradict what you held in your heart. You made it through. Over the course of this conversation, you're going to recognize 5 specific signs that show this cycle of testing has been closed by a higher hand. You're going to understand once and for all why that exhausting effort that seemed to yield nothing was necessary, and why your journey was designed to feel so solitary. And before this moment ends, I'm going to declare over your life the confirmation you've been searching for in prayer, the same confirmation that brought you here to this encounter right now. Stay with me until the end, because every layer we peel back reveals a truth you already know, but needed to hear named out loud with clarity. In the last few weeks, you felt an exhaustion that wasn't physical. It was a soul tiredness, a weariness that sleep couldn't cure because it didn't come from work. It came from the resistance you kept up against your circumstances. You noticed that the places where you used to feel comfortable started to feel empty. Conversations that once made sense now seem like just noise. You started waking up at the same time over and over, as if you were being called to a meeting your waking mind couldn't yet decipher. The isolation wasn't a punishment, it was a preparation chamber. Your dreams became vivid, almost like they were your true home, while waking life felt like a constant wait for something you knew was coming. Your fingers typing those 3 numbers are your signature of agreement with the end of this cycle. 888 is the frequency of overflow, the symbol of eternity bending back on itself to start something new. It's the acknowledgement that the test is over and the harvest is ready to show itself. Type 888 and then come back to me, because we need to go deeper into what's happening beneath the surface. The truth is, you spent months operating under a logic that wasn't yours. You were trying to move mountains with the strength of your arms, when all that was needed was the authority of your voice. You pushed, you worked, you insisted, and every time the door stayed shut, you asked yourself where you went wrong. But listen closely, there was no mistake in your effort. What you lived through was an intensive faith training. You needed to prove to yourself and to the universe that your persistence didn't depend on visible results. You had to be forged in the wilderness so that when abundance arrived, you wouldn't just be a receiver, but a steward capable of sustaining what was coming. What looked like a personal failure or a delay in your life was actually the building of your character. You were being shaped for purpose, and purpose demands a foundation that doesn't crack under pressure. Your effort was not wasted. It was the investment that paid the entrance fee for the phase you're about to inhabit. You stopped pulling on ropes that weren't attached to anything anymore. You understood, maybe without realizing it, that your faithfulness shouldn't be measured by how fast the answer came, but by the steadiness of your walk. Now, the soil of your life has been turned over. What was dry is being watered, and what was buried is starting to show signs of sprouting. Think now about your heart as a garden that went through a harsh, long winter. For months, you felt the ground harden, the roots seemed stuck, and the surface dry to the touch. You may have felt forgotten, like soil nobody was tending anymore. But what you didn't see was that this season of apparent barrenness was when life was moving the deepest layers beneath you. The gardener doesn't abandon the field when the land rests. He waits for the exact moment when moisture needs to reach the layers the sun can't touch. That turning over you felt, those sudden changes, the discomforts that forced you to change direction, the removal of the weeds you called security, it was all soil preparation. You don't turn over soil to destroy what's there. You do it to give the seed that was planted in secret enough room to spread its roots deep. If you hadn't gone through the pain of dryness, you wouldn't have the firmness needed to sustain the harvest that's about to emerge. The garden doesn't apologize for being prepared. It surrenders to the process because it knows spring isn't a choice. It's the consequence of obeying the cycle of seasons. When you type, you're not just sending words into a digital space. You're declaring in front of the invisible that your resistance has stopped and that you are now an open field for what you want to manifest. Let that acknowledgement seal exactly where it just touched, right in the center of your readiness. Type the phrase and then come back to me, because we need to understand the value of what you've just aligned. Many times, the pain of waiting is mistaken for abandonment. But here's the big reframe. What you went through wasn't a delay. It was protection. You asked for the door to open, but destiny knew that if it opened then, you wouldn't yet have the inner structure to carry the responsibility that abundance demands. The waiting was the filter. It refined your character, cleaned your intentions, and separated what was just a passing desire from what is your eternal purpose. You were kept from paths that would have drained your energy without giving you the return your soul is looking for. That protection, though silent and sometimes painful, is what kept your essence intact until today. You are being polished, not to become someone who only consumes, but someone who overflows and holds what is entrusted to you. Your sensitivity, which many called weakness, was the instrument that kept you connected to the right voice while the noise of the world tried to pull you away. You weren't standing still. You were being calibrated. And here, in this June season, we stand at a milestone. The cycle of effort without fruit, of hard work that seemed to find no harbor, is officially closed. I declare this over your life, not as a prediction, but as a fact. The scarcity of answers is over. The effort you were putting in, like someone running in circles, has been transformed into directional movement. You are entering a phase where doors don't need to be broken down anymore, because they were designed to open at the touch of your hand in the right timing. This month of June carries the signature of completion. You passed the fire test, the one that proved your loyalty even when nothing was visible, and now divine approval is your new reality. What was effort is becoming flow. What was wilderness is starting to reveal the fruit you've been seeking. If this confirmation brought peace to your spirit, if you feel that the pieces have finally clicked together in a way you can't explain, let your like be your wordless amen. Don't do it as a mechanical gesture, but as a seal of agreement with the truth that was named here. It's your way of saying that what was spoken has found a home in what you know to be real. Every agreement is a testament that you are no longer operating alone, but in harmony with the order being established for this new cycle of your life. Before this moment closes, I want you to make one final mark. Don't do it as a request or a hope, but as a confirmation of identity. The agreement that formed between your spirit and the clarity of this month is what will sustain your walk in the coming months. Write it slowly. Feel the words as your fingers type them. Let this physical act reflect the authority you are stepping into now. You are no longer the same person who started this time of listening. You are someone who passed the test and received the seal. Feel the weight of these words. You are committed. You are commissioned. You are sent. Your life has stopped being a string of random attempts and has become a sequence of divine alignments. You are no longer looking for the path. You are walking the road that was prepared. You passed the hardest test you could face, and I'm not saying that to give you fleeting comfort. I'm saying it to name what you've been living through these past weeks. June arrived carrying a load of tension that seemed endless. A pressure that tested the structure of your character, your patience, and above all, your ability to keep believing when there was no evidence at all. You felt like someone walking on a bridge made of fog, not knowing where your next step will land, but keeping your stride steady because something inside you said stopping wasn't an option. That persistence, that quiet effort you've maintained, did not go unnoticed. You waited for approval to come from outside, for someone to recognize your value, or for external circumstances to finally align and give you a sign that you were on the right track. But what you didn't realize is that the test wasn't about the final outcome. It was about your posture during the process. The sign that you passed is that deep exhaustion you feel now, an exhaustion that isn't physical, it's from your soul. You felt unexplainable emotional waves, moments when silence seems to shout and trivial conversations lose all meaning, as if you were speaking a language no one around you understands. If you've been waking up repeatedly during the night, feeling that your spirit is awake before your body can even open its eyes, know that this isn't insomnia. It's a frequency adjustment. Your internal clock is being recalibrated to the frequency of the new phase opening up. If your life has felt like a battlefield where the weapons seem too heavy, it's because you were carrying the weight of battles that no longer belong to this time. If even one of these signs touched the core of who you are, if your chest felt a little lighter hearing these words, I ask you to do something simple. It's not a random number. 888 is the frequency of overflow, the symbol of infinity standing up to say that what was contained can now flow. By typing those digits, you are declaring that your season of scarcity and effort without return is being closed right now. It's your way of saying yes to the harvest. Type 888, and after that come back to me. The diagnosis I bring today is clear. You were not failing, you were being trained. The effort you put into everything you did, even when it seemed like nothing was sprouting, was the fertilizer for a soil that needed to be deeply turned. Imagine a garden that went decades without proper care. For new flowers to grow, the soil can't just be covered with a pretty layer of grass. It has to be dug up, the stones removed, the old dead roots pulled out. That process is violent for the earth, but necessary for life. You have felt turned over, removed from places, shifted from positions, separated from people. All of it was to clear the way. You thought you were losing connections, but you were only losing weights that would have held back your growth in the new season. The metaphor of the harvest isn't about what you plant today. It's about what you were able to endure during the drought. You saw the scarcity, you touched the lack, and still you didn't give in to bitterness. That is the marker of your new cycle. The Creator doesn't approve your work by the volume of results you show the world. He approves your heart by the consistency you maintain when no one is watching. This month of June wasn't a passive waiting period. It was a time of refinement. You are being prepared to carry an authority that, if it had come before you walked through this wilderness, would have destroyed your very essence. The test wasn't to punish you. The test was to protect you, ensuring that when the door finally opened, you had the structure needed to sustain the blessing. Now pause for a moment. Breathe deeply and let this truth settle inside you, in the part of you that was still doubting. Let these words mark the turning point in your personal record. When you type, I am ready, you take on the posture of someone who is no longer asking, but who is prepared to receive. Do it now, with the awareness that your commitment to the truth is what opens the floodgates of what comes next. The transition you are living through is a return movement. You don't need to build a new version of yourself. You need to unlearn the layers of fear and self-protection that were placed on you over the years. Your true identity is much bigger than the circumstances you've faced until today. You were shaped to be a beacon in the midst of confusion, but to shine, the glass of your lamp had to be cleaned. What you lived through was that polishing. The people who walked away, the plans that failed, the paths that were blocked, all of it was protection against what didn't serve your purpose. Be thankful for what was denied, because what was denied is what allowed you to get here. You are entering a time of clarity. Things that once seemed confusing, the questions you carried without answer, will start to become transparent. You'll notice that your intuition is sharper, that your voice carries more weight, and that the decisions you make today hold a peace you've never felt before. That's because you're no longer operating from human effort, but from divine alignment. You have become a steward of your own peace. Understand that the approval you sought from the world was never going to come, because the world doesn't know the origin of your journey. The approval you needed has already been given, and it came from a source that never fails and never mistakes. Look back to the beginning of this month. See how fragile you were, how every small setback felt like a fatal blow. Now feel your steadiness. You are still here. You still have breath. You still have hope. That by itself is the evidence of your passing. What is coming is not just a sequence of days, it's the building of a new reality. Don't rush to figure out the how or the when. Your only job now is to stay in the frequency of gratitude and observation. Watch how doors open without you needing to force them. Watch how the right people show up without you having to search. Watch how provision manifests without you having to panic. If something in this message confirmed what your spirit already recognized, let your like be your wordless amen. Don't see it as a button on a screen, but as the seal of your agreement. It's a quiet gesture that says what was named here is the truth of your moment. It's the acknowledgement that although life is made of words, there are times when our soul can only say yes. Keep that posture of receptivity. What we're doing here is creating a space where your truth can breathe. Your listening is not passive. It is an active form of participation in something larger than your own biography. You are being reconfigured for a dimension of life where the impossible becomes the standard, where effort turns into blossoming. Embrace this change without fear, because you were prepared for it during every day you thought you were being forgotten. What you went through was simply the interval needed for your own story to catch the breath of eternity. There is a specific rhythm in how life is starting to organize itself around you now. You notice that the tensions that used to dominate your thoughts begin to lose their color, turning pale in the face of the new clarity you are cultivating. It's not that the world suddenly changed, but you altered the lens through which you see reality. What was once read as an obstacle is now perceived as the contour of a passage opening up. Observe the stillness that settles into the gaps of your day. It's there, in that silence you've learned to inhabit, that the answers solidify. You no longer have to cry out for direction, because the direction has become the walk itself. This transition didn't happen by accident. It is the result of a deep refinement you endured without complaint, even when loneliness seemed to be your only companion. Your quiet resilience was the fertilizer needed for what you are about to harvest. Consider the time you spent in preparation. There were months when every step felt like a plunge into the dark, when doubt whispered promises of failure at every corner. Yet you stayed. You kept your commitment to the inner truth, even when external evidence insisted otherwise. That resistance was not a detour. It was the training of a spirit that needed to learn how to bear the weight of its own promise. The cycle of exhausting effort, the one where you tried to push rivers with your hands, has finally reached its point of exhaustion, allowing the current of life to take over. You are being led into a space where flow is natural, where human effort is replaced by grace and synchronicity. Imagine now a garden that went through a harsh winter. The soil was turned over, the old roots removed, and the earth left in absolute rest. The surface looked empty, maybe even abandoned, but beneath that apparent layer of dirt, a silent work was taking place. Nutrients were redistributing, layers were settling, and the seed that had been cast there was preparing for the right moment to sprout. You are that garden. Every discomfort you felt, every sense of being dismantled, was only the preparation of your life's soil. Nothing you lived through was wasted. Every tear of frustration was water. Every moment of waiting was the sun that warmed the soil. Every goodbye was the pruning that let the new grow stronger. What you considered a loss was, in fact, the clearing needed so that nothing would hinder your blooming. Right now, in this very moment, as you process this revelation, you can feel the weight lifting from your shoulders. It's like the armor you put on to protect yourself from a world that didn't understand your purpose is becoming unnecessary. You can let that protection fall away. The space you are stepping into is safe enough for you to show who you have truly become. You no longer have to perform. You no longer have to prove your worth to those who don't hold the key to your story. Your validity is intrinsic. It lives in your essence, in your ability to keep going, in your willingness to believe when there was nothing left to see. That is the mark of your approval. If something inside you now recognizes itself in this description, if the weight of doubt has finally given way to a certainty you cannot explain, know that this is the confirmation you asked for in sleepless nights. You are no longer in the realm of trying. You have entered the season of harvest. Notice the small coincidences beginning to dot your day, the people who call right when you were thinking of them, the doors that, instead of closing, open before you even reach the handle. These are signs. They are the whispers of life, confirming that you have passed the test and that your alignment is complete. Do not try to rationalize these events. Simply give thanks. Gratitude is the fuel that accelerates the manifestation of what is being prepared for you. You are being called to a level of consciousness where anxiety no longer has a place. Your story, from this moment forward, will be told through ease and provision. What you went through was the edge of your endurance, and when you reached that edge, you found yourself. What is coming next is the expansion of that discovery. Pay attention to what your intuition tells you in the hours ahead. It will be your most accurate compass. What was once noise has become melody. What was once emptiness has become fullness. You are ready, not because you pushed for it, but because you allowed life to do in you the work that needed to be done. Stay in this state of presence, because it is here that your new reality takes root. And in the face of this clarity, recognize that your approval did not come through physical effort, but through the steadiness of your spirit. Many times you wondered if your path was blocked or if you had taken the wrong direction. But the truth is that you were simply being refined in the fire of patience. This gesture is not just a record. It is the seal of your readiness for the harvest that is beginning to unfold. Type now, and then return to me. You know there is a quiet beauty in knowing that you no longer have to explain yourself to the world. Your silence, which for so many years was mistaken for weakness or withdrawal, was actually your greatest strength. You were listening to the frequency of what was coming. And if, during this conversation, something touched the deepest part of you, a place few people have ever had the chance to know, let your gesture of liking this be your wordless amen. Not as a social media metric, but as a sacred commitment, a silent agreement between you and what has been revealed here today. You did not come this far by accident. While this content was reaching your ears, a face appeared in your mind. Maybe it's someone you know, someone who has walked through the same winters of the soul, someone who keeps a steady posture but carries a tiredness that almost no one notices. That person does not need advice. They need confirmation. Send this message to them. You are the messenger of the hope they have been searching for, not knowing that you were on the same journey. We are reaching the end of this moment of recognition, and I want you to take your position. Do not do it with hesitation, but with the certainty of one who understands that divine approval is not a prize. It is a state of being. Write slowly, feeling each letter, allowing your identity to settle into this new reality opening before your eyes. You are committed, you are commissioned, you are sent. Right now, all across the world, other souls are receiving this same confirmation. You are part of an awakening that makes no noise, that seeks no stage, but that transforms the fabric of the world through your simple existence. You are not alone on this walk. The network of purpose that connects us is invisible, but it is unshakable. It is sealed.